One day, there will be a last family dinner, and no one around the table will realize it's the last. Someone will laugh at a story they've heard a dozen times before. Someone else will get up to refill a glass of iced tea. The dishes will be cleared away. The lights in the kitchen will be turned off, and everyone will head home thinking there will be another meal together before long. Sometimes there is, and sometimes there isn't. Life has a way of closing chapters without announcing that it's doing it. The older I get, the more I notice that the biggest changes rarely happen all at once. They arrive so quietly that at first, nothing seems different. The routines continue. The calendars keep turning. Another birthday comes and goes. Another Christmas. Another ordinary week. Then one afternoon, you're looking through an old recipe box or folding a tablecloth you haven't used in years. And it suddenly dawns on you that the house sounds different now. The little feet that once ran down the hallway are gone. Refrigerator isn't covered with school papers anymore. No one is asking what's for dinner before lunch is even over. The kitchen that once felt too crowded somehow feels a little too quiet. It's strange how, while we're living those years, they can feel so ordinary. We're busy trying to get everyone out of the door on time, wondering what's for supper, reminding someone to pick up their shoes, or wishing for just 5 minutes of peace and quiet. We don't stop and think, I'm going to miss this someday. Why would we? It just simply feels like life. But years later, those are the moments that come back to us. Not because they were extraordinary, but because they were ours. I found myself wondering how many beautiful moments I've hurried through simply because I assumed there would always be another one. Now, when I stand at my own kitchen sink, or just simply sit with a cup of coffee in the early morning, I'm reminded that these simple days aren't standing in the way of life. They are the life I'll one day remember. When my children were little, I never one time stood in the kitchen and thought, I'm going to miss this someday. Most days, I was simply trying to make it to bedtime. The alarm would go off. Before I'd finished my first cup of coffee, the house was already awake. Someone couldn't find a shoe. Someone else had forgotten about a school project that was due that morning. There were lunches to pack, cereal bowls to rinse, permission slips to sign, and, well, a dozen questions before anyone had even walked out the door. And by the time the house finally grew quiet, there were beds to make, laundry waiting in the washer, groceries to put away, and dinner to start thinking about. And then before I knew it, the front door would swing open again. Backpacks landed in a pile on the floor, and shoes somehow stopped just short of the closet. There were stories about teachers, scraped knees, a spelling test, and, well, who got in trouble at recess. Sometimes everyone talked at once, and somehow I was expected to understand every word. Saturday mornings had a rhythm all their own. Cartoons were already playing before I was even awake. Pancake batter was in the bowl, and it wasn't long before I heard the familiar question I'd answered hundreds of times. What's for breakfast? There were arguments over whose turn it was, bedtime negotiations that somehow always ended with just one more story. Tiny socks that disappeared somewhere between the washing machine and the dryer. Back then, none of it felt very remarkable. I wasn't trying to create memories. I was simply just being their mom. Looking back, that's what surprises me the most. The moments that stayed with me weren't the expensive vacations or even the perfectly planned birthday parties. They were the ordinary pieces of everyday life. The laughter drifting through the house while supper simmered on the stove, the refrigerator covered with crooked crayon drawings, sticky little hands reaching for mine, one more hug before bed. Those were the moments that quietly filled the house with love. I just didn't understand it while I was living them. Now, when I hear another woman say she's exhausted from the endless routines of raising a family, I completely understand. Those years are demanding. They're noisy, chaotic, messy, and sometimes they feel like they're never gonna end. But if I could sit beside that younger version of myself for just a few minutes, I think I'd tell her only one thing. Take a breath. Look around. Not because every moment's easy, but because these ordinary days, they have a way of becoming the ones your heart returns to years later. I've been asking myself lately why it's so easy to hurry through the years we're living in. I don't believe it's because we're ungrateful. I really don't. If anything, most women I know are incredibly thankful. They love their families, and they care deeply about their homes. They work hard to make life comfortable for the people around them. I think the real reason is much simpler. We wake up believing there will always be another ordinary day, another family dinner, another birthday to celebrate, another summer when everyone will gather in the backyard while burgers on the grill and the grandchildren run barefoot through the grass. So tomorrow feels so certain that we don't stop to consider how precious today already is. Instead, we tell ourselves we'll slow down after things settle down a little bit. After the closets are all organized, the appointments are over, after we've caught up on everything that's been waiting for us. The problem is, life has a way of replacing one busy season with another. Just when you think you'll finally have more time, something else needs your attention. The calendar, it just suddenly fills up again. The phone rings, someone needs a ride, family member gets sick. Another holiday comes and goes before you've had a chance to catch your breath. Looking back, I can't remember many of the things that kept me so busy, but I can remember who was sitting around the table. I remember the sound of laughter drifting through the house. Oh, I can remember little arms wrapped around my neck, warm cookies coming out of the oven, and evenings when everyone somehow ended up talking long after the dishes were done. Those are the moments that stayed with me. Not the to-do list, not the projects, not the things I thought couldn't wait. Maybe that's why I'm trying to live a little differently now. I'm learning to let the conversation last just a few more minutes before jumping up to clean the kitchen. Sit on the porch and watch the sunset instead of always finding one more thing to cross off the list. To look up a little more often and remind myself that this isn't practice for life. This is the life I'll someday remember. And I don't want to spend so much time preparing for tomorrow that I miss the quiet gifts waiting for me right now, today. The older I get, the more I realize there are so many things I just simply don't remember anymore. I couldn't tell you how many beds I've made over the years, or how many loads of laundry I've folded. I've forgotten how many casseroles came out of the oven, or how many lunches I packed, how many times I stood at the kitchen sink washing the same coffee cups and dinner plates. Those numbers, they disappeared a long time ago. But I can remember little voices talking over one another because everyone wanted to tell me about their day first. I remember birthday candles glowing while everyone sang just a little too loudly. And oh, I remember homemade cookies cooling on the counter while little hands kept asking, "Are they ready yet?" Oh, and I can remember the family dog faithfully waiting beneath the table every evening, convinced that something delicious was eventually going to fall. I can clearly remember summer evenings sitting on the front porch, watching the kids ride their bikes up and down the street until the street lights came on. Somehow, everyone knew that was the signal the day was over. Isn't it amazing what stays with us? It isn't the number of chores we finished or how organized the house was. It isn't whether we finally crossed everything off the list. The things that remain are the people, the laughter, the familiar voices, the traditions that we never planned to create. The ordinary moments that quietly became part of our family's story. None of those memories felt extraordinary while they were happening. At the time, they just felt like another day. Just another ordinary evening at home or another family dinner. Only years later do we realize those ordinary days were quietly becoming some of the richest moments of our lives. The older I get, the more I've noticed something. Whenever family gathers around the table, the stories start flowing. Nobody begins by talking about the biggest accomplishments of their lives. Instead, someone smiles and says, "Do you remember when?" And just like that, everyone starts laughing. Someone brings up the Thanksgiving when the dog jumped onto the table and made off with half the turkey before anyone could stop him. Another remembers the Christmas the power went out, and everyone ended up eating leftovers by candlelight, wrapped in blankets, laughing harder than they had in years. And before long, somebody starts talking about the old family dog who faithfully waited under the dinner table every night, hoping a piece of roast or a spoonful of mashed potatoes would accidentally fall his way. Then someone else, they just can't stop laughing about the camping trip when the raccoons raided the cooler and left everyone eating peanut butter crackers for breakfast. It's almost never the expensive things people remember. It's the laughter. The recipes everyone expected you to make because it just wouldn't feel like Christmas or Thanksgiving without them. The stories that grew funnier every time they were told. The little traditions nobody planned. They just simply became part of the family's life. That's the funny thing about ordinary days. We rarely recognize them while we're living them. Only years later do we realize they were quietly becoming the memories that we would treasure most. Maybe that's what a meaningful life really is. Not a handful of unforgettable moments, but thousands of ordinary ones stitched together by love, laughter, and the people who shared them with us. These days, I catch myself looking at life a little bit differently. Maybe that's what getting older does. You begin to understand that the people around the table won't always be around your table. The voices that fill your home today won't always echo through these rooms. The traditions you've done every single year without thinking about them won't go on forever. Once you realize that, something changes. At least it did for me. I don't feel quite as rushed as I used to. The dishes can wait another 15 minutes. The laundry isn't going anywhere. And there will always be another floor to sweep, another grocery list to write. But I don't know how many more evenings I'll have sitting on the porch with Tim while the sun goes down. And I don't know how many more phone calls I'll have with the people I love. Don't know how many more Christmases, birthdays, Sunday dinners, or just ordinary afternoons I've been given. None of us do. And somehow, instead of making me afraid, that realization, it's made me grateful. It reminds me to answer the phone instead of thinking, oh, I'll just call them tomorrow. To stay at the table a little longer after dinner, and to listen without glancing at the clock. To hug the people I love just a little bit tighter before they walk out the door. I've stopped believing that life begins after everything is finished. Because if I've learned anything, it's that life has been happening all along. It was happening in the noise, in the mess, in all the interruptions, in the birthdays, the backyard cookouts, the spilled milk, the bedtime stories, in the ordinary conversations that seemed so forgettable at the time. Those were not the moments keeping me from life. They were the moments I was living. And now, when another ordinary day comes along, I find myself quietly thanking God for it. Because I've learned something time has taught me. I've stopped trying to get through ordinary days, because one day, they may be the days I miss the most.